Welcome everyone to How Not to Souls. Jron here, and today we're looking at a bleed slash hollow build from Dark Souls 2, which was alright. Not my favorite. Not bad. It's about mid range if you're looking for something overpowered. I wouldn't say this is overpowered, but I did have a good time with it. And there's actually two sides to this. There's an unhollowed side and a hollow side. We're gonna take a look at both. We'll start with the hollow side first. But little disclaimer, I feel like this would be an amazing PvP build, especially in duels. Because if you see how where our health is, being hollowed in the main game, or within like the PvE game or invasions, your health is going to be like that with the Ring of Binding. But now in duels, you will have a full health bar. So I feel like this would be a great duel build, at least on the hollow side of things. But now let's take a look at our stats and what we used and all that fun stuff. So we had a 50 vigor for a large health pool, 40 endurance, so we can run around with and do the things we need to do, swing our weapons, run. 15 vitality to have some armors that we want. 6 attunement, which is base because we had no spell casting, even though you could go down that road. 41 strength and 45 dex. So we kind of went through like a dex leaning quality build, which if I kept going, it would just be a quality build. And I'll explain why I did it the way I did it. Adaptation 20, adaptability 20, so we can get those nice rolls. 10 intelligence for nothing. It was just base, and 20 faith to just supplement our bleed BNS. Okay, now so bleed damage scales with your dex and your faith. Faith gives you a little boost, but dex does all the heavy lifting for your bleed damage. And it also helps out your poison damage, along with adaptability, helps out with your poison damage. So this would have also been a great poison build as well. Just saying. I didn't go down the poison road. We just wanted to do bleed. Yes. Okay. So we're going to divide our weapons up in simply the hollow stuff and then the regular stuff. So we had the Bleed Greatsword of the Forlorn, which is probably the best weapon you can have while you're hollowed. It does really good damage, considering a majority of our stuff was below 400. So 435 for our AR on the Forlorn Greatsword. And it scales with your hollowing. So if you're hollowed all the way, this is where you're going to be. And the Sword of the Forlorn is also a quality, technically like strength leading quality weapon, but it has a high bleed and has a little bit of dark damage. It's a funky sword, but it does really well when you're hollowed. Now, you can also use the Scythe of the Forlorn. That's another thing you can use on this that scales with your hollowing. Now, if we're not hollowed, we go restore humanity. Our damage is a 43. So that's the give and take. With that lovely mustache, oh my lord, we have it back. It's amazing. So, for like 60% of the time for the build, we were mustached, and our other weapons were the Flameberg, which I thought was a fun. It has good reach. It doesn't have like the most amount of damage, but it was a fun one to have on. The Royal Greatsword has innate bleed in it as well, giving a little more. Made it a very good option for us to use. And then I'll go over the other two you see right there: the Washing Pole and the Foom Night Sword, and the Bleed Full Moon Sickle, which also was really good on this. And like the stat requirements on it are bizarre. 20 and 18 when you have dex scaling. It's so bizarre. But there's a reason why we had to throw some strength into the mix at times. Outside of the Forlorn Greatsword and the Royal Greatsword, because the Royal Greatsword also has strength. scaling on it, which is bizarre to me. But we also tried to go down the road with the Ultra Fumnite Sword, making it a bleed weapon. Did not do that great in comparison. I would never put bleed on this again. Maybe dark. Maybe something else that would balance it out. I don't think this would be a great bleed weapon. And the washing pole, I think all katanas have a great moveset, and they don't all have a bleed. I didn't realize that when I'm like, oh wait, the washing pole doesn't have any bleed on it. But I made it a bleed weapon. I had a fun time with it. So, another thing, the black steel katana actually would be pretty rad on this too. Put bleed on that. Blah blah blah. Could say this, that, and other thing. For our shield, the Blossom shield gives us a nice amount of stamina regen. Our set is the Forlorn set, but with the engraved gauntlets, that gives you a slight chance to have your hits become critical hits, which paired up with a bleed proc does a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. That's why I had the engraved gauntlets on. Otherwise, I just have the complete Forlorn set. For our rings, the third dragon ring, the ring of binding it works like the cling ring in Demon Souls. It gives you more health when you're hollowed. So if we didn't have that, we would be just at half health if we were hollowed. Having the ring of binding, ring of blades +1 for the extra damage, Calanthrian ring +1 for extra stamina regen. Also, when we had first Crest of Blood, which would be in place of the binding ring. The ring of binding. We can actually, or the Calanthry ring. And then Dark Clutch ring if we were getting funky with the Great Sword of the Forlorn. If we're getting funky with that. Life rings. Bracing Knuckle ring +2. Also, it's a great option on any build. And I felt like this build lacked some poise. This Giant's ring +1, or the Giant's ring, whatever. Yeah. Otherwise, that was pretty much it for our ring layout. Consumables are what they are. Whatever you put on. Knives, bombs, tongue pies. Whatever buffs, debuffs you want to throw on. Or any buffs you want to chow down on. Bright bugs. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It was a fun time. I don't know if I ever go back to it. Unless I was doing PvP. This would be a killer build for PvP when you're hollowed. I think you would just mess some people up. That Great Sword of the Forlorn is outrageous. The side of the Forlorn you can actually focus on too if you're hollowed, but I feel the Great Sword's a little better. But otherwise, yeah, try it out. Bleed's weird in Dark Souls 2. Not my favorite compared to Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring. But I guess it's worth checking out. So I hope you have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the footage, and I'll see you later. Peace out.